So now we have seen that we could actually pass information for this method. And I could actually change it if I would by using the HTTP GET method for one of them, and then the HTTP post for the next one. And we'll see that in the next example. So I think I'll just comment out this one, or we could also just change the name. Oh, I need to stop this one. So we could call this demo 1 and this demo 2. Then it could actually still be active code. So it might be a little bit better than we have the possibility of making the index 1 a little bit slight different. So now we will use one like this one. This was demo 1. This was actually coming out. So now just move it and put it in the end and still call it index. And it's a little bit easier when we are using it, because then we don't need to write so much in URL address. So now you can see this is a view. So what you can see is actually that we can call a method here that actually make the HTML. So you also see this is returning an action and result. So we can actually also pass error messages through this type. It's not just a string, it's a little bit more complex, but basically it's the same. But it's calling here a view. It's not saying what the view is named. So actually, again, we got some convention because you saw the folder. So we got a folder matching the controller. So when I actually say return view, I actually expect to find a view in this folder, and I also expect that the name of the view is index. So it should be the same name here as my action. If I right click here, you can see, and that would be the easy way, because then I can just say add view, and then it automatically try to put it where in this folder, because the IntelliJ knows that it should be an index. It should be for the index action, and it should also be placed in this folder. So if we got more than one controller, then each of the controller will have its own folder, and of course now it might be a little bit problem when you're working, because then you might actually have more than one file with the name index, and one should be a little bit careful about which one are you actually changing, if you're changing some of them. So because they will, if you open them up, you only see the beginning. You actually see only the file name, not the path. So, but we will try to use this one, and you can see there is some template. We could write it as a class ourselves, but it's a little bit easier using this one. And I will use this one, an empty one without a model, because I don't have a model at this time. So I'm saying add. You will also see here that it's saying something about Razor, so it's actually using a layout page. I can remove that as well, so I don't have anything else. But when the template was generated, there was actually some kind of layout with a frame for every pages, and if I want to use that, I can just mark here, and it will be put in the template. So we say add, and then you see now we got something, new stuff. So you can see we got a slightly different stuff in the beginning here. that's actually something for Razor, telling that we haven't got a layout, and else it will actually, when it's making this running through this file and generate HTML, then it will actually also pass it to the layout in the end, and the layout will take all the produced XML, HTML, and put it into the layout. But in this case, we just see that it's null, and then you can see we got an HTML, plain HTML file in this case. I don't know if you have seen what this is, the viewport. Could actually be a little bit interesting sometimes if you run it on a mobile device. Then you can actually, instead of it's running with pixels, then it will scale, so you see it in full scale. So you can actually have a page, and then you can scale it in a mobile device. So it's a little bit more nice to look at. As you see the title, and this is just an XML title. So now we will actually just make plain HTML in the first place. And what we will do is actually making a form, so we can put information in, because then we can have two kind of information. We can have a view we can show, and we can also have a view that actually give us information back, that can post information back, so we can make the calculator. So we put it in here, and I think I'll try to type it all. I'm not really fast typing HTML because it's not so often I've done it. So, but I'll take the form in the first place and put in this one, and then there's a method for that one, and the method I will try to use is a post. I'll make a post, and that should be it. And you see it's making the end form for me. So now I can put something into it, and the first thing I will try to put in is an input field. So it's called input. So if you have tried to make a form with the tutorials, you probably have seen how to make an input field, and else I'll do it now. So we make an input, and it needs a type, and we got this types for input. So in this case, I just need a text, so it might be here, this one, and then it has a name, and this is important that we give it a name, because the name is what we actually are using when we are passing data to the server. So when we are passing data, we will get a key value pair, and the name will be the key. So let's just call it num1. And in this case, I could also give it an ID. I don't need it for now, because I don't need to run through the elements. But if I have a JavaScript running, then I would probably go for a unique ID for every one, because then it's easy to find the element. And I can use the same for that. Normally, if you have been using BPF and you have elements in SAML, then you probably also will have a name, and you also have a name that you could use if you are passing through all the collection of element, and that would probably be the same name as you use in your C# code, and this is a good idea here also. Then we can give it a value, and just giving it 0 for the first time, and that should be it. And you see that in this case we actually end it, so it is still completed So, but the end tag is put into in the end here, so you don't have the options like the div tag where you have the start and the end. So this is only an element, and this is actually attributes we put into the elements. So and this is actually, if we are having this one, is the content for a div. So this will be an inner text of the div, and this will be an inner text of the form, and this will be attributes in the input element num1. We need one more, and I'm a little bit lazy this time, so I copy it and call it num2. And also give this a value. We could give it another value so we can see the different. And in this case, I also want a result. So I make one more. And that could be, let's just put in a text so we can actually see it's changing. So this is the first part of it. Then it will be enough to start it and see that we could actually have the form, but it would probably be a good idea that I actually also can have some information and send back, and for that I actually need a button. So I will make a new input type, and this will be a button, but it will be a special button. It will be a submit button. A submit is when you actually are activating the post and send the information for the server. You can make a button which is not activated. You could have a button where you have JavaScript running on it as an event, but where you don't send information to the server. So it will be a submit button, and so this will be the time. The name of it could actually be also submit. I'm not consequent. I can see actually this should, maybe I should use the same notation, and I probably get bored about capital letters. So the name is, yes.
Look at the name of the result.
Oh yeah.
And the ID in the result. Maybe the end.
First day with the new fingers. So an ID that might also be submit. And in this time, I also give it a value. And in this case, I could just call it submit, but I've got an idea a little bit later, so I will call it add. So this is actually giving back a value of add. So, and you probably guess that I could have one more also, but this time I could call it. Now I have got a problem because I might only have one with an ID. The ID should be unique, so I could call this submit add, and this could call just subtract. And then subtract for this one. So now I got a form with some elements that can give me information. So let's try to go back to the controller. So this is now the one that's called here. So we got this one, and I think that I actually will write this one in the top just to remember that this is actually an HTTP GET. That is the default, but now I'll write it because I need another one in a minute. Yes? What, once again? No, not without any information. So this will be the one that actually sent the form as you see it without, and then you are correct that when I send it back, when I press the bottom, then I will need a post. But in the first place, let's try it, and then we can make it make a post action for that. We have some code here that we could actually use, so let's try to do it this way. So we try to run it. All those. So we got this one, calc. So you see that it's not pretty, but you see it's working. So we got information, we got a form, and actually we also can press the bottom if we want to, but then we will probably have an error. We can try, and you see that we got an error. There's no resource for this one, and that's actually because we only got a get action, we don't got a post action, and we were telling that it was a post in the form. So so now it passing the information here. So we can set more information because we don't need to send it back to the same action. If we don't write any action, then it will still be the same action, but we could actually send it to another action if we want to have a different action for the first time and for the next time. But we can do it just making a new action a post action. Question for now? So at this moment it's completely plain information. So let's try to go back to the calc controller, and then we'll actually steal a little. Oh, we don't steal anything, it doesn't matter, it's so little. Steal this one, change it a bit. So we change this one to a post. So now we got a post, and this time we actually got information. So we actually have information in this one, so we can actually send a num1, a num2 and the value, and actually the result is also, it might be a label instead, but now it's an input field. And we also got some for the submit. So every time we got one name here, we actually got an input back when we are making the post. So we can just map it in and say we got an int num1 int num2, and we could also say int result. We don't need that. And actually we also have one more. We got also a string. We could put it in the front and call it submit. So this name will be mapped. So we got a post, and it's actually sending key value pair, so they will be mapped into this value. So it's really important that you use the same name, else you will have problem. But you can see we don't distinguish between if they're coming from the URL address or they're coming from the input here. So we could actually have a method where some of them are from the URL and some of them are actually from the body from the HTTP body. So let's try and run it again, and this time we will make a break here and try to run it, and hopefully it will work. So this will be boring if we are just putting this one every time, but we can show you a little bit. Like this one, we got still a problem, and I need to check what I've done here. What is saying string int. So this one nullable declared as an optional. Okay. I can't figure that out. Maybe it's because of we actually got the ID still. No.
Der står, at det mangler noget for results.
Yeah. So string in optional parameter must be referenced nullable, declared as an optional. But we might have a spelling problem. So I just try to see if I spelled correctly. So result, submit, result num1, num2. In this one, what did I need? Different. Submit. Num2. Well, I'll just stop the video and maybe we take a short break and I figure out what's the problem. Yeah.